Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everything Iconic with me, Danny Pellegrino. I'm here with Meredith Marks from The Real Houses of Salt Lake City. Meredith, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I mean, what a season so far. How are you feeling as we're going on? We're about halfway or getting close to halfway, I think.
Yeah, well, I think we might be a little less than halfway, but we'll see how it
Good.
all unfolds.
Oh, good. So how are you feeling as it's airing, though? Like, are you feeling good about this season? Where are you at in your head right now?
um, I feel good. It was a tough start for me losing my father. That literally the first day we started filming was
Sorry.
very intense, and it started me on a bit of an emotional roller coaster that plays out throughout the whole season. And so, I had some moments that for me were probably a bit more emotional than I'm used to. And I don't know how that will come across. I guess we'll see.
Right. Last week on the show, we saw the sit down between Jen and Brooks. And you were, of course, at the sit down as well, just at the bar. How do you feel about how that all went? Do you feel like you got some closure on the Brooks and Jen of it all?
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of it was just I wanted Brooks to feel at peace and to be able to feel like he could move forward with, controlling his own narrative of his life. I mean, that's something that we all should be able to do. And I felt really good that Jen did take some accountability for the night that she was at my house and did, apologize for her behavior that night, because she was originally saying it didn't happen. And that was really, really hard on my family overall, because we knew it did. And, so it was just like we felt like we were just being called liars. And for her to own up to that was a really big deal for me. It really was, because, to me, it was like, okay, we all make mistakes in life. We all do things that we're not proud of. We have bad moments, but I felt like I was getting the brunt of somebody else's bad moment. And, she did take accountability for that, which was a relief to me.
Let's talk a little bit about the social media thing. I know a lot of housewives have people help out with their social media or run their social media. What do you think is the protocol on that? I would think it's up to Jen to tell whoever is maybe helping out with social media to say, hey, this is unacceptable, or run this by me. What's your take on that process?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, we all want to be very present when everything is going on. And like, we want to be live tweeting when the show is airing. But of course, we have lives and there are conflicts and there are times where you cannot possibly do everything you want to do. And so it is, in my view, fine to have someone help you there. Sunday night, I was at the theater. I wrote my own tweets, but I had someone else post them for me in real time, because it was either that or don't tweet. So, but I had control over it. They were my tweets. I wrote them and I'm accountable for them. And so I think that to each his own, but whatever you decide to delegate, you have to recognize that it is your responsibility because it is being put out there under your name.
And I mean, it's not just you. It happened with Meredith or with Heather, also had brought it up to Jen about some of the things that were going on social media. So do you think she was just sort of turning a blind eye to it all? Or was it purposeful, like the liking and the retweeting and all of that kind of stuff? Do you feel like that was purposeful, or do you think it was really an honest oversight with whoever was working with her?
I mean, Jen says that it was an oversight, and I'll take that at face value. There are things that lead me to believe that may not be the case, but like, why beat a dead horse? Let's move on with it. Right. She said she apologized for it. And at the end of it, that's all I can ask. We're human. We make mistakes. We do good things. We do bad things. Let's move on, whether she did it, authorized it or not. At the end of the day, as long as she's responsible for it and saying that she takes responsibility for it, that's what matters.
And how's Brooks doing with it all now? Is he over it? Does he feel good about it?
Yeah, I mean, Brooks has, moved forward. He's really busy. He's, running his business. He's in school. He's finishing up at NYU. and he's, coming to a very peaceful place in his own being and self, and finding himself and his space in this world. And so he's moving forward.
Now, Meredith, you and Mary seem really close. I'm curious, how are you guys now, and how did that relationship come to be? Because it's been fun to watch you and Mary and Brooks all together.
Yeah, I mean, when Brooks was first kind of upset and trying to navigate some of this stuff, he and I both, we kind of spoke to Mary, and she sort of reached out to help him a little bit too. And, Mary has a very calming ability about her. She's able, and I guess it's part of her job at the end of the day, she's able to find a way to kind of help you get to peace with certain things. She's a person who is very, very much living in the present, more so than anyone I've ever met in my life, where they kind of are just really in the moment. And, does her best to let go of the things that aren't serving her in the moment. And so that was kind of where things started, was she was trying to guide Brooks a little bit to help him find some peace, and me too. And she's been really very supportive of us, so it's been good.
She's claimed, and I'm curious if you have any insight, or maybe you're not even able to talk about this, but she has sort of alluded or claimed on social media that Heather and Whitney, I believe, are racist. Do you have any opinion, or do you know where any of that is sort of coming from?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of her story to speak on, not mine. I personally cannot say that I've seen stuff myself from Heather and Whitney that would, take me down that path. So I think that's something that, Mary will need to work out directly with them. I mean, as a white woman, it's very hard to speak about that.
Now, last week on the show, we saw the sit down between Lisa and Angie, and I wonder what's your take on that? Because, of course, we did see Lisa bring you into the room at the casino party, but I'm curious what your take is on that whatever happened there.
So if I honestly believed that Lisa was capable of canceling the caterers to sabotage a charity event, I wouldn't be friends with Lisa. So I just wouldn't be friends with someone who I would think would do that. So my view is, obviously, I don't think she would do that. I'm not in her house every day. I can't tell you what really happened or didn't happen. I have to believe, from my experience with Lisa, that it was just bad timing how these events unfolded. I just think it was really bad timing, and it backfired on her. And, I think she wanted to do some stuff with these caterers and had reached out to them. And I understand where Angie got the appearance that she did. I understand why Angie went down that path, but I wouldn't be friends with Lisa if that's something I thought she really would do.
To me, that whole thing was like classic Housewives. The whole thing, it was just classic. I love the kind of bizarre feuds that stem from something like caterers. To me, it was just classic Housewives. I love watching it. Tell me about Jenny. Now, Jenny is new this season. Are you guys getting along? How are you feeling about Jenny joining the cast?
Yeah, I mean, Jenny, came into a situation where, as we all know, there was a lot of built up hostilities between all of us. And Jenny, other than Lisa, really didn't know any of us very well. And so she kind of was walking into a difficult situation because, you have to figure out where you're going to stand or remain completely neutral and kind of just completely stay out of everything, which obviously is not a real great thing for Housewives. So she had to try to navigate and figure it out. And, as we saw even at ice fishing, was it a little bit much for me when she was trying to navigate the situation without having been there the whole time? Yeah, I was a little bit irritated, but at the end of it, I knew that her intent was positive. I knew she was trying to do something good, and she did the best she could.
Okay, I got to dive into the Jen Shah legal drama. Now, we saw in the trailer, you're not actually at the beauty lab and laser when a lot of this goes down. Are you able to tell me why you weren't there?
No, because that's something you'll see unfold.
I
But
can't wait.
no, I can't tell you that. But
Okay.
it's probably not for everything that people think. There's probably some surprise to it. So yeah, you'll have to see.
Okay, so everybody thinks that you and Brooks tipped off the feds. Can you at least like respond to that in any way?
I mean, like I told Andy on Watch What Happens Live, I've said it over and over. Don't mess with my family.
I need to know what happened.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, you know what? Everybody knows. I've only known Jen for a few years. So, and we know this has been a long investigation. So,
Do you believe that she's guilty?
What I believe is really not relevant. In the United States of America, you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Court of friendship is not quite the same. So I have to deal with Jen on the basis of how she treats me, treats my family, and the information I have of, who she is as a person. I can't say that she is guilty because I am not a court in the United States of America. I'm just a person.
What about the Stu Chains of it all? What's your take on him? Because I feel like we have only seen him a little bit. What do you make of that man?
Stu was always really nice to me. Like I honestly did not have one negative interaction with him. He was always very over the top nice, super nice and super helpful and really wanted to accommodate and help out with things. So, I never saw anything other than that. And he was really, I think, also a very positive force around Jen. I mean, we saw at ice fishing that he was the one who really was able to calm her and get her to, get it together, slow down, take a deep breath and move forward. And, he definitely did have a positive calming influence on her.
I'm so curious what all these assistants are for exactly. There seems to be a lot of them. And every week I feel like there's a new one that pops up and I don't get what they're doing exactly.
Yeah, I think we were all curious about that. And that was part of what raised a lot of questions for, everybody about Jen was we didn't really understand, her role in what business she was in and, who all these people were around her and, why it was all these assistants as opposed to a director of marketing, CFO, blah, 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 like you would have at most companies. It was just 1,000,001 assistants, which did come across as unusual.
So now that you've gone through the season, you guys haven't filmed the reunion yet. Do you feel like you have some clarity on the business of Jen Shah?
No, I don't, no, I don't because, the things that she said over and over that she did just never quite added up for me and they still don't. And, it's not my problem. It's not my concern. But no, I don't understand it.
Will we see how Coach Shah plays into all of that as it unfolds? Because I think I'm also watching The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and a lot of that season has to do with what Erica knew versus what her husband knew. And so obviously Coach Shah is the husband of one of the cast members. And I don't know, are you able to tell me, will we see that side of things at all? Do you know, or is that something you maybe just don't know?
I'm not really sure. I think there's a pretty big difference though between those situations and that Coach Shah is sitting in Erica's shoes right now. He's the one who, he has not been indicted. He's not been arrested. There have been absolutely no ties for him that have been shown to Jen's case. And so there's no reason to believe at this point that he had anything to do with it. And he's not, the one, he's the husband, as opposed to she is the housewife. And so I think the public had a lot more questions for Erica than they will have for Coach Shaw.
Right. Speaking of husband, how are you and Seth doing?
We're doing great. We're doing really well. I mean, marriage is never smooth sailing. There's always going to be some, waves, and hopefully they're small waves. But we're doing very well. We've had an immense amount of time together where, he has been working kind of remotely, not all the time, but he's around a lot. And so we are together a lot more than we have been for many, many, many years. And it's proving to be working. So I'm feeling really good about our relationship, really positive about our relationship. Yes, we still have arguments. Yes, we still have disagreements. Yes, I did email our marriage therapist to get an appointment last week, and he irritated me. Like, we're normal, we're human. But it's positive, and we're communicating and working through those issues rather than just sort of like shoving them in the corner and hoping they go away, which is what we were doing before.
Forgive me if this has been covered on the show, but what exactly does Seth do for his work?
So Seth right now, he's always been in an industry of dealing with distress, liquidations, closeouts of consumer products and companies. And he is currently working with a discount retailer to help turn their stores around.
Oh, great. I know he spent part of the time in Ohio near where I grew up. So I've always had a soft spot for Seth in my heart. What else can you tell us about the season? I'm so excited. Obviously, that first trailer we got and the beginning of that first episode of season 2 was just thrilling. And I am just on the edge of my seat waiting to get to all of these moments, particularly that beauty lab and laser day. As Whitney Rose said, I got the fucking chills and I can't wait. So what do we have to look forward to?
I mean, it is a really exciting season. It's very volatile and tumultuous, ups and downs. Obviously, we know about Jen's arrest, so that plays a part in everyone's dynamics with her and her relationship with her, and for each of us to digest and navigate those circumstances and the situation. As you've seen a little preview too as well, there was some conflict and drama surrounding Mary and her church, and what's going on there or not going on there for that matter. And so those were two huge things that went on that, we've sort of had a little bit of a window into, but there's way, way, way more. The dynamics between all of the women, it's pretty wild. I mean, we are a strong, tough group of women who are very opinionated and not afraid to express our opinions. And it causes a lot of conflict and drama. We're all wired extraordinarily differently. We all handle, conflict resolution very differently. And there's just emotions were very, very high by, all those events that had unfolded, and everyone was super sensitive and easily set off. So there's a lot of drama.
One of the things that's going on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills that fans have been a bit critical of in regards to Erica's situation is that fans feel like the other housewives aren't asking enough questions. And of course, I know that they're two very different legal situations, so I don't want to equate the two. But I'm curious if you feel that with the Jen Shah stuff, the other women were comfortable asking questions about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, some of the time, yes. Jen spoke voluntarily. She, did speak a lot on her own. So, in my view, first of all, look, she has a trial pending, and to protect herself, there's only so much she should be saying, in my view. So was I going to go in with questions that I know she shouldn't be answering? No, I'm not going to do that. Maybe some of my friends on the show don't quite recognize where you can and can't go as much, and maybe asked a few more. But she has a trial coming. I mean, there's only so much that she's going to be able to say. And she was relatively forthcoming with her opinions and point of view on the whole thing on her own.
What's the number one thing from this season overall that you want cleared up at the reunion?
That's a good question. I guess there are so many things because it was a really long winter season. Let me tell you, we went through so much stuff. But I guess what I would say is, and it's not even really just about me, it's about all of us, is that we're all just human beings navigating through life, doing the best we can. And we all make mistakes, and we all do great things, and we all do things that we regret. And, you see snippets of it. And that's what makes it fun and entertaining, is that there are holes in the story. You don't know everything that has happened. And you shouldn't, because that takes away some mysterious intrigue and, whatever else from the entertainment side of it. So, I guess more than anything, that we're just people. We're just people. We're doing the best we can, and we make mistakes. And I don't think, I can speak for myself. I have no intention of trying to hurt other people or trying to be disrespectful. But, I lose my temper. I guess the one takeaway I would say is that I was extraordinarily emotional dealing with the loss of my father. And there are definitely some moments that I think my emotion got the best of me.
What was going through your head when Mary farted in that scene? Excuse my language, but what was happening in your head? Because I was very curious about that. I was thinking, like, you were sitting there and you and Brooks were like, what is going on here? Like, what was going through your head?
I mean, it was actually pretty funny, but I was shocked. I was just like, this did not just happen. But I thought it was hysterical. I was like, oh my gosh, she has just no inhibition, And that's what I'm saying. She's just like someone in the moment, whatever's going on is going on. And if it's a fart, it's a fart.
She's one of the most unpredictable humans I've ever seen on TV. And that it makes it very exciting to watch her, because I think you don't know what is she's going to say or do. Yeah. Even this past week when she was telling Whitney that story about someone being ejected from her car, it's just like, you can't even imagine what's going to be said next. And that's thrilling in reality TV.
I agree. And it's part of what I love about Mary. And it's part of what causes a lot of problems for her too, is because, I understand who she is. I'm not sure that all of the women really get her, because she has a moment and she just says it. And then, it might not be the nicest thing, but she's gotten it off her chest and she's ready to move on. The problem is some of the things she says hurt the other ladies, and they're now not ready to move on. And so she just is someone who very much lives in that moment. And, I think knowing that when I have any conflicts with Mary, I address them back with her at that moment calmly, and we move on and we're fine. But if you let it fester and come back to her later, she doesn't really get that, because she's living in that present moment then. Mm-hmm. But that's what makes her so entertaining and funny, is that she's a wild card. You have no idea what she's going to say, because it's like train of thought flows right out.
So back to the Jen stuff. What is it that you switch? What makes the switch happen? Because we've seen in the trailer that obviously the two of you are at odds again, but it seems like you just made up. Can you tell me what had happened there?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to kind of grade our relationship going into ice fishing, she and I were at a negative 100. I thought that there was no way there was going to be resolution. I thought that there was no way I was ever going to want to be around her, even in the same room with her again. And coming out of ice fishing and then, with her meeting with Brooks, we got to kind of a neutral space, to a 0. And that, in my view, was okay, we're neither here nor there. We're peace. I have nothing negative to say about you. You say nothing negative about me. And let's just coexist. We can be nice, but we don't need to necessarily be friends because there was damage done. And for me to get back to a place of friendship, it takes time. And the damage was done over the course of a couple of years with her. Well, it's going to take some time to fix that and undo it. And as I've said over and over and over, an apology is meaningless without a change in action. And so for me to move forward with an actual relationship with Jen beyond an acquaintance and, running in the same circle and tolerating each other and being cordial to each other was going to take a lot of time to prove that she really was moving forward differently. And there were things that sort of came to light in my head as the season moves on that you'll see that made it hard for me to move forward.
And is that then when you called up the feds and had them get her at Beauty Lab and Laser in the 15-minute Botox parking?
Oh, yes. You know it. The one thing I will say is I am not like a vindictive person. I've never been one who's like, oh, I've got to seek revenge. I feel like people suffer within their own being, and people who do bad things have to wake up every day, look in the mirror and know who they are. And that's enough suffering for each of us. So I'm not a vengeful person, but I don't really hold grudges, but I do establish barriers and I put people in the place they belong.
Yeah, I mean, Meredith, that was one of the things I noticed from your first season. I actually write a little bit about this in my book. Is there was that scene in the end of season 1 of Salt Lake City where you had established a boundary and you had just said you didn't want to engage with Jen any longer. And I think that's so rare, and it's such a very smart emotional thing to do for people. And it's something we rarely see on Housewives, is establishing that barrier. I do have to let you go, but there's one final thing I just want to ask about. There is some critiques of Brooks, and I had said this on the show too, of he is an adult, and I totally don't agree with any of the stuff that in terms of the tweets that Jen had been liking and stuff. But what do you say to critiques of like, he is on this show, so does it make him fair game to get talked about by the other women? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. So there's a lot of elements that go into that. First of all, I would like to clarify, when I call him a child, I will always say he's my child, because He is my child. He may be an adult child, but he's my child, and he will always be a child to me. Yeah. And I get that to the rest of the world, when he started season 1, he was 20 years old, and that is not considered a child. Fine. He is my child.
Yeah, my mom still calls me her baby. I mean, I'm the youngest. I'll always be the baby. I get that. Totally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, at the end of all of it, 22 years old is still relatively young. It's certainly not a child, but it's young. Do I think that means he's off limits? I have mixed feelings on it. I came into this being told like, oh, children are always off limits, not like only, minor children are off limits. If you're over 18, you're suddenly not off limits. That was not like kind of what I was told, but like, it's not like there are rules. This is just the history of it, I guess, whatever. But it's that I didn't necessarily I would not go after somebody else's child. I think it's wrong, but more than any of it, to be trying to take away his own exploration of his sexuality and try to tell the world who he is without him having a chance to either make that choice or want to talk about it. I don't care if you are 5, 25, or 85. That is wrong, period.
Yeah. Well, I loved seeing your mama bear come out, because I just think it was great to see. And I loved seeing you stick up for him in that way. So Meredith, thank you so much for taking the time. This was such a delight. I can't wait to see the rest of the season. So thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media and all that good stuff?
Okay, so I am on Twitter at Meredith Marks 0, Instagram at Meredith Marks, TikTok at Meredith Marks, and of course my website, meredithmarks.com. And thank you so much for having me. I always love talking with you.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Meredith. Thank you so much.